Before we get started, what do you think about the Knicks?
Well, I have money on the Pacers, so I kind of knew this was coming. I thought I couldn't understand why the Knicks were favored. They obviously should have won Game 1 anyway. But I mean, Indiana's 44-16 since January 1st, and they rolled over the Bucks and the Cavs. So I didn't understand why the Knicks were the favorites. They have had the same record coming in, and I'm like, the Knicks barely squeaked by the Pistons. They obviously had to pull out some rabbits out of the hat to beat Boston even before Tatum got hurt. And I'm like, yeah, the Knicks are good, but I'm like, Indiana's playing at an elite level.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think, look, a series should be 1-1. I think the Knicks are going to win. I actually think the Knicks are going to win Game 3, but I think, I had money on the Pacers to win Game 1 and the series. I had money on Pacers Thunder in the finals. I had money on Pacers in 6. Like, I just didn't really think it was a great matchup. So, and the Pacers are deeper. I mean, you're seeing like the Knicks can only play like 6 guys, and like that overtime game, like Towns got a real good look at that 3, but that was a tired 3, man. He hits the front rim. Like, that's like,
Here's the difference. And there's two things. The Knicks find themselves in a position similar to the Minnesota Timberwolves, similar in that they're down 2-0. The only difference is that OKC did what they were supposed to do, which was win at home. And the Knicks are in the opposite end of that. So they're in a much more difficult situation to try to pull off 2 wins or at least 1 on the road.
I think they're going to win 3 and lose 4. And then they'll win 5 at home and then lose 6. I mean, T-Wolves won Game 3 easily last night. I mean, so the home team is held serve. Yeah, so home team's held serve. I don't think they're winning the series, but I think.
Why, you think they're still too young?
I also think it's a bad matchup. I mean, Oklahoma City defensively, I think, is ultimately too tough. I know last night you come home, you get lit up, but I think over the course of the series, it'll be too tough for them. So Denver was a much better matchup, which is why that series went deep. And Ant's not playing at that level right now. I think he was actually playing at a slightly higher level last playoffs than he is this playoffs. And like he has to be Superman in this series for them to have a chance. So Pacers Thunder's final. That's an NBA nightmare. That was the one thing I was like, I feel like at this point, if I was Indiana, I'd be like, you realize Jalen Brunson's going to shoot like 22 free throws in Game 3 because the league is going to be like, we gotta try to put a stop to this.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, Marvel news.
Oh man, yeah, so much stuff. Yeah, so much stuff. Try to hit it quickly.
Yeah, so we got some Avengers updates and delays. The Ironheart trailer came out. Some things happening with the Defenders, Annihilators, possible movie being spoken of. Jake Schreier, that's his name, Schreier. He was the director for Thunderbolts, right?
Yep.
And Brian stated a couple of episodes ago when we did our review for the Thunderbolts how this felt like that this could have been an X-Men. It had that feel to it, and then a few days later we get an announcement. Is rumored or is just being looked at?
Rumor or in talks, not finalized, but in talks. Yeah.
Okay. We got some Spidey 4 updates as well. Avengers updates, Brian. You had said a long time ago you still think that this is going to be delayed, and here we are. What's going on?
So they're shooting Doomsday now. They just started that. But Marvel made some significant changes to the film calendar, both to existing and unannounced projects. So as it pertains to the Avengers movies, both Doomsday and Secret Wars have been pushed from summer movie slots in May to Christmas movie slots in 2026 and 2027. To my knowledge, all the other Avengers movies were summer releases. They were May releases. Spider-Man No Way Home was a December release, obviously very successfully. But it's interesting because Disney, when they've had the giant franchises going, has typically put Avatar in the Christmas slot like they have this year. They've Star Wars, they've used both. Star Wars, they've done Christmas. Star Wars, they've done summer. Marvel has almost always been summer. There really has almost never been like a Christmas Marvel movie. And now we're getting Christmas Avengers movies. We'll see. I think it's just because, honestly, the scale of the production and the date they're starting, it's a pretty tough make to get ready for May. But I think it's interesting that both went to December. I would also submit that I still think there's a chance Secret Wars doesn't make that Christmas 2027 date. Doomsday, now that it's shooting, probably does make the Christmas 2026.
They're supposed to release. Is that the one that's supposed to release with Dune? Talk of this movie being released with Dune 3.
Well, Dune 3 is shooting in the next couple of months. So Dune 3 is probably coming. Yeah, it would probably be coming next fall or next Christmas. So yeah, they could be head to head. I also wonder when Avatar 4 is supposed to be coming, because I would have thought Cameron would have been projecting one of those to be in Christmas 2027 potentially. That's why part of why I think Secret Wars might wind up moving. I know they want to keep them 1 year apart like Infinity War and Endgame, but they're not shooting them at the exact same time. I think they're trying to shoot them back to back, but I don't think they're shooting them at the same time. So I wonder if this will wind up being 12 months apart.
So yeah, this is supposed to be released the same day as Dune the Messiah. I don't get the logic here.
It's a competing audience for sure to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, in my opinion, I'm looking forward to seeing Dune Messiah. Then more so than Doomsday on that weekend, possibly. I don't know.
Well, I think you'd have to say based on the recent track record, there's a safer bet that Messiah is a better movie. It's a more grown-up movie, obviously, but it's a better movie. It's definitely a risk, but it shows you these calendars are getting so crowded too, because like Brand New Day is supposed to be next year as well. So, we're talking, and then everyone's going to clear out for the Odyssey. We just talked about He-Man, and when this year's crowded, next, it's just a lot. There's a lot of product that's got to come to market here. But so along those lines, Marvel is really starting to thin the schedule. So in addition to these two delays, they always used to put out these placeholder dates to let other studios kind of know, hey, we're planting a flag on this weekend, and that weekend, and we got something coming. Well, they gave up 3 of those. So there were February of 2026, November of 2026, and November of 2027. They got rid of all 3 of those, which means if you look at how the calendar is now set up, Fantastic Four will arrive on July 25th of this year. There will now not be another Marvel movie of any kind until Brand New Day, which is exactly a year later, July 31st, 2026. So they're going to go a whole year with no movie from Fantastic Four to Brand New Day. Then they will have Avengers Doomsday. So those individual projects that were obviously we know Blade, all that stuff's been talked about, but some of these individual projects elsewhere are kind of just nowhere.
Yeah.
What was the Shang-Chi 2 expected arrival date? Because that can't be 2026, can't be 2027 now. So, the other thing that's conspicuous is now Brand New Day is ahead of Doomsday. And remember, we've talked about Brand New Day as being like Avengers 5.5, but now it's falling before we see Doomsday. So it makes you wonder if that movie is also still a bit in flux in terms of what they're going to put in it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of changes.
Of Secret Wars possibly being split up.
You had heard that it actually might be made 2 parts, and I just said I don't think it's going to make that December 2027 date. So if they break it up, that certainly would be an indication. What did you hear on that?
No, I think Tracy from Eggheads News sent me a headline. Here's the thing: that this is according to IMDb. And some YouTubers are reporting on it. Cosmic Wonder, who's a big YouTuber, says has spoken about it. This comes from IMDb, and IMDb doesn't do a great job of delivering some news. So this is really like take this with a grain of salt type of situation. But Brian, let's say this is all true. Okay. What's certainly true is that they have delayed it, these movies. What's your pro and con? For me, the pro is they're taking their time, right? They're not rushing this. And it is a possibility that that they're really thinking about how they want to tell their story so that we can get the reactions that we want to be excited. We're not expecting to see, Infinity War, Endgame, even No Way Home type of situation. Certainly the expectation for excitement and is what we want, but not necessarily those. They want to build, I guess what I'm trying to say is that they want to earn that excitement again. They want to earn those reactions and not just be fan service. And because we cannot come out of these theaters disappointed with this. We just can't.
So my pro is, similar in the sense that we know they have a lot of story to cover and not a lot of time. And so, yes, I see where the scale of what they're likely trying to do, 3 movies might make more, not just box office sense, but it might make more creative sense than just 2. And, who knows where Brand New Day fits into that. I think the con and the risk is obvious, which is this whole multiversal saga has not been successful. Dragging it out further, dragging it out by additional years, which is what this would require, especially if Doomsday is not all that, is a risk. Because now you're saying I'm attaching myself even further to this ship that has been sinking and that is interfering with my ability to move on with X-Men and other additional projects and cleaner slates and stuff of that nature. And so I point to like what's going on with Thunderbolts right now, where, you and I generally had a favorable view of it. Critics liked it. Audiences seem to like it. People like the differences in it. And then you look up and you're like, box office kind of stinks. And so you're like, it's being dragged down by the stigma of other Marvel noise. And Secret Wars and Doomsday are the culmination of that noise. Now, we hope they're great. But if they're just okay, then that means we have to live through another one of these to get this off the board. So I see the pro. I see where it might give these movies a better chance to be better. But if the mess is too big to clean up to begin with, then I think we're just dragging out what has turned into just a non-enjoyable process. So I'm kind of mixed on it.
Yeah, definitely let us know what you guys think of that whole situation with the Avengers movie delays. Ironheart. Again, this is a show that we've spoken about ever since it was first announced, that this is not a show that we really are looking forward to, and not because of anything. It's just because for me personally, I'm just not that familiar with the character, right? I didn't think she had a good showing in Black Panther 3. I think she was just thrown in there, and I didn't really connect with the character and what she is capable of doing. I don't think the fans care about this character, and it shows in a lot of people and a lot of people's reactions to this.
There's only one reaction that matters to me. I mean, we'll talk about the content of the trailer itself, but so I saw the trailer come up on my feed. I watched it right away. I texted it to you right away. So we probably watched it within the first hour that it was up. I would estimate within an hour of that, I saw a news story with this headline. After Ironheart trailer, fans hope for RDJ cameo. And therein lies the entire problem with this show, as I have said from the beginning. His shadow, the Iron Man shadow, is too big for this show to stand on its own and be successful on its own merits. Because the second people saw this, the immediate thing they were at, where's Iron Man? Where's Iron Man? And it's no disrespect to, Dominic Thorne or Anthony Ramos, who we'll get to in a second, or anyone associated with the project. It's just, that's the legacy of RDJ and this character. You put an Iron Man-esque character anywhere near the screen, people immediately are looking for, where's Iron Man? Yeah. And so when I saw that headline, I was like, that's why this show is kind of doomed from the start, because it cannot escape that connection.
Apparently, Mephisto's supposed to show up. We finally, and everybody was in these shows always thought Mephisto was going to show up and he was going to be and now perhaps we get to see what this, because it's supposed to be Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, which is interesting.
Yeah,
very actor or performer, I would say. Anthony Ramos sounds like Anthony, it just doesn't sound. I mean, because honestly, I've never read the character of the Red. What's his name? Red?
No, you always do this. It's the Hood, not the Red Hood.
So the Hood. I've never read that comic or his character in the comic, so I don't know what he's supposed to sort of. Nobody's ever done him before, live action. What sounds like just Anthony Ramos doing his thing.
Which is what he said he was going to do. He didn't read the comics. He doesn't really care about what the lore is. He simply read the script and he's just riffing on what he sees in that.
Yeah. So we're getting this show, and again, the audience doesn't care about how many episodes is this going to be?
I believe it's 6.
Are they releasing all of them at once?
That I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it's a dump. I mean, this is a legacy. As much as Ryan Coogler might be involved as the producer, this show is from the old way of Marvel TV. So you got a couple of these left. This one and Wonder Man, most notably. These shows are kind of being dumped. I mean, that's kind of the reality of it.
This is one show that Ryan Coogler's name doesn't hold a lot of star power for people to be interested.
I agree.
In this.
I agree. It helps, but he's not directing it. He didn't write it. And no, I don't see a lot of hope for this show to make a real impact. And like I said, for a multitude of reasons. And I don't think the trailer was compelling enough to change people's perceptions of that. I expect this show to be pretty middling to low ratings, and for it to come and go, and Disney will be very fine and okay not to do a season 2. There was one comment that Brad Winderbaum made about the use of characters, which I thought was a little bit, I thought it was disappointing, but that's because we've talked about some of these possibilities in the past. He talked about the idea that like they were going to make a clearer line of demarcation between characters that were appropriate for TV and characters that were appropriate for movies, and that you would not see crossovers. Like you would not see frontline Avengers ever show up in TV series, and that characters that were deemed to be like very TV focused would kind of generally not often cross over into movies.
So that shoots down Charlie Cox's hope.
Well, but remember, we had also heard D'Onofrio say that legally, contractually, Kingpin is not allowed to appear in Marvel movies. So there's also like all sorts of those type of issues. But I think it goes to, they are now, as we watch the overreaction of this MCU struggling, they are really trying to cut ties between the projects a little bit to try to make people feel like you don't have to watch this to get that. And like, that's why he's saying that. But at the same time, I just think it's disappointing as you're getting into the X-verse in particular that you can't have a few characters who span both mediums. And so that's why I was a little bit disappointed to hear that.
Annihilators. I'm not too familiar with this group, Brian. What is the significance of this possible movie?
So this is basically an excuse to have Chris Pratt keep playing Star-Lord. I think in the comics, it's sort of a mishmash of galactic characters. I think like Ronan the Accuser is actually part of this team, even though obviously he was the villain in Guardians 1. But he, in theory, I guess Lee Pace would be part of this organization, but it would be Star-Lord frontlining and organizing kind of like a successor, not to Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think the Annihilators actually were more like the technical Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it was like an intergalactic, highly powered team that actually could protect like larger swaths of space. But it is a mishmash of like characters you would know and seen from some of the supporting roles of prior projects. They obviously didn't say who's on the team, but the one thing that has kept coming up is that Annihilus has been rumored to be the next gigantic villain in the next cycle of Avengers, whatever they're going to do. So introducing the Annihilators would actually seem to lend credence to that if they're going to do that. So I don't know if it goes anywhere. Like I said, it does sound a lot like they just want to keep Chris Pratt on the payroll and have him doing stuff as Peter Quill. But that at least was the first time we'd seen a reference to they were putting something together around him and having him run a different team.
Whatever big villain that they introduce, you have to treat him with the sort of respect as they did with Thanos. And as hopefully they do with Doom, but I don't have any confidence in that. Until I see it, he can prove me wrong. Because it's not what's this guy? Robert Downey Jr. is certainly a great actor. You want to see him and what he does. But it's up to him to his performance needs to be, I think, different. And if he fails to do that, then we have problems. We definitely have problems. Defender.
They already have Galactus on the board now, though, coming with Fantastic Four. Like, how many more gigantic villains do we need, right? I mean, like
what? We got to see what happens with that.
Makes me nervous.
Galactus at the end of this.
Makes me nervous. If he's not going to be a major factor in the universe past this movie for some reason, that makes me nervous.
It's a shame. Defenders.
Happening. Yes. Absolutely happening. Yep.
As participating in season 2 of Daredevil. It is not long before we see the names of Luke Cage, Mr. Coulter, and possibly Finn Jones. I don't know if he's still filming his street fights.
I think he's going to get his wish. There's some smoke now that yes, even Finn Jones might be along for the ride.
Okay. What does this say? Because I read some articles when you stated about Daredevil not having good viewership.
No, did not.
Hence why they perhaps are hastening the inclusion of the Defenders in this season 2.
I think that's fair. So let's go with what we know. We know that Kristen Ritter is back as Jessica Jones on set, in costume, filming scenes with Charlie Cox right now. So you can see that. So that's not even like a rumor. Absolutely is back. Mike Coulter dropped some knowledge on social that basically indicated he and Finn Jones were gonna both be arriving in New York now, if not shortly. And of course, it's like, well, why would they be arriving at the same time? It's like, sure, maybe they know each other in other capacities, or they're arriving just as season 2 of Daredevil is shooting, and they're going to be a part of that in some capacity as well. So I think it's a growing possibility you are going to get all of the Defenders back from Netflix into this show sooner rather than later. As Pablo alluded to, viewership for this was very basically nondescript. Was it the worst they had? No. Was it anywhere close to the highs they've had for Marvel and Star Wars shows? No. It kind of just disappeared. It just was in the middle. It was not an event, and it came and went, and it really just didn't leave an impression. And so, yes, I do think there's a reaction function of, on the one hand, they cleaned up what they wanted to tell. I think it's funny that Charlie Cox really didn't like the bank robbery episode. He hated that episode, apparently. He was like, what are we doing?
Charlie Cox are here. He understands that was a filler joint. That had nothing to do really with... That was a waste, I think. That was a pure filler episode. And
it wasn't even like it was terrible TV. He was just like, what does it do? He's like, I don't really understand what we're doing. Like, that basically was his take. And season 2 is an attempt to clean that up, right? But I think it's also they're trying to make it a bigger deal because it didn't make the impression that a Netflix show did. And so it makes you kind of wonder, like, okay, so if season 1 was not a hit and they bring the Defenders into some capacity and season 2 is not a hit, I think that's it.
Charlie Cox's hope for a movie.
Well, technically, he's already been on the big screen, right? No Way Home, that's his cameo. So, I mean, it all depends on how appropriate it is and what they're legally allowed to do with him, So I don't know. But I think we have to separate. He has a very high approval rating among the IP fans. But we always say, right, the numbers don't lie. Like, he clearly doesn't, like, this character and his portrayal of this character, it's not like it has like 4-quadrant appeal, because the random people didn't show up for Born Again. Is it fine to have him pop up in Secret Wars if you're legally allowed to do it and have him have a little role? Sure. But why would you feature Charlie Cox as Daredevil on the big screen in a major way if he can't show that his own show is a big hit?
Yeah, let's see what they do. Hopefully this whole thing is compelling and not forced. And interesting would it be the Punisher's show, because it would feel somewhat disconnected, obviously, if whatever he has to deal with has nothing to do with what he went through in Daredevil, right? He escaped. Okay, he's escaping, and what is he doing now? Is he hunting down the cops that are portraying him one by one? What is he doing? So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah, let's see what happens with the Defenders and how they'll be able to pull him off. I hope they're successful in the character portrayals, especially with Iron Fist. I hope they're not there just to be. I hope they have something to do. I hope they do it well. But if this is just there to be there and collect a check, and we know this, it's a wrap.
I mean, look, coming off of season 1 of Born Again, we got to say, like, the fight choreography, they got a lot of work to do. So if they're gonna make we're not even ready to make Iron Fist look good. We got to make Daredevil look good again, and then let's try to give Finn Jones, or hopefully he's doing his part, but like give Iron Fist a real interpretation on screen. But
Marvel put him through the ringer 7-day a week, 2-a-days.
I'm telling you, he should have multiple black belts right now. If he doesn't have that, I'm concerned.
Jake Schreier in talks to direct X-Men. Brian, you said it before.
It's so funny, right? We did our Thunderbolts review, and I was like, there's something about the emo of this and the mental exam and the examination of the superhero condition that I was just like, this feels like something that I would expect Xavier and his team to be going through. And then lo and behold, with Jake Schreier in talks to maybe be the director of X-Men a few days later. I don't hate it. I mean, obviously, I think with Thunderbolts, he tried and succeeded in some very meaningful ways. I don't think we should overstate what happened. It's not, Thunderbolts is not Winter Soldier. It's not, Thunderbolts is not in that elite tier. It's just a very welcome, cohesive departure from what we had been getting. And he succeeded in bringing to life some interesting characters, most notably Lewis Pullman, as Sentry. So I think there's potential here. I understand why you would have a conversation with him to maybe be one of the first directors in your X-verse. I do not hate it at all. But as I just said, I mean, Thunderbolts is going to be a box office disappointment, even if it was a critical success. So and it's not like he made, Superman the movie or The Dark Knight. Like, I don't want to put him in that class, right? So this is a choice that makes some sense, but let's not pretend that it's like, we've got Steven Spielberg directing the X-Men, so.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I'm interested.
Yeah. And Spidey 4 updates, Brian. What's going on with Spider-Man 4? We talked about it. We touched on it in terms of its release date. But there's some news about Sadie Sink and who she's going to be playing.
Yeah, so there's some character stuff here that Sadie Sink might be playing the daughter of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Mayday Parker. And then there was talk that the film might feature Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone as villains in it, as working for Mr. Negative. Mm, mm. Pablo's shaking his head.
Sadie Sink should be the new Mary Jane, yeah. We need to, if you want to do some separation and disconnection, even though Zendaya and Peter's relationship was interesting when they were on screen, but that has been solved. And so you have to provide a new love interest. Yeah, you can make a callback. You can see Mary Jane walking past, not Mary Jane, MJ,
MJ.
Zendaya by, and they have a conversation, and you can do something possibly, but Mary Jane is the one that I think Peter needs to be attempting to sort of form a connection with, that we can get into the Spider-Man MJ lore and make those dope.
Completely agree. And I think when I hear all this list of characters, I'm like, this is a lot of characters who I don't really have a lot of attachment to that you're trying to put in this movie. Like, feels very Sony to me. Like, I don't know what's going on here. And I don't know, man. Brand New Day so far has been a troubled road to get to this point. And, Destin Cretton, I thought, did a nice job with Shang-Chi. I still like that one better than you do. But I think I read all this and I'm like, this is not adding to my excitement. This is starting to awaken concerns about what's going on here.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of what the Marvel studio guys over there are trying to deliver to us. There's certainly a sense of reorganization in terms of how things are delivered and what they're trying to make and the quality of it. There's certainly it perhaps took a secret because it wasn't announced that they went on their getaway to find to how they want to do this, but they're certainly thinking about it ongoing and not really uh doing things the way they used to do it, Brian.
Yeah.
Because there was some announcement that they made that they're releasing certain things differently now in terms of the amount of movies that they come out every year and shows that they're gonna be doing. I don't know if you heard some of that.
I think Iger said something about, like, I think the cap it's still too high, but I think the cap was something like, I think it's like 3 movies a year and 2 shows a year is the cap right now. But it feels like that should probably be more closer to like 2 movies a year and 1 show a year, but we'll see. But anyway, that's what they said. It's 3 movies a year and 2 shows a year. It's kind of what they're aiming for.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe.